Hi, and welcome to this really special episode of a podcast with no name because this isn't about the Matt Holman Talks Mental Health podcast. This is a conversation with somebody who I absolutely adore. Marie, welcome to the conversation with me. We're going to have a nice chat here today, I hope.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, really looking forward to our chat today. Yeah, I always love chatting to you. So,
Thank you. There's a sort of a mutual appreciation society thing going on here. And Marie and I, we've done quite a lot of work together over the last few years, in particular, around sort of inclusion, mental health, neurodiversity. Oh my gosh, you know what? And I always say to people, and I've recorded podcasts recently where I've spoken about inclusion and sort of said, the one thing I can guarantee whenever I went there was I would walk away happier. So it's a wonderful place. And Marie, just very briefly, for anybody who doesn't know you, tell us a very quick insight into who you are.
so I'm Marie. I'm the Relationships Director at Inclusion Education, and we're a charity that supports young people with co-occurring neurodivergence and mental health needs. And it's these mental health needs that predominantly form a barrier to mainstream education, to employment, to life, really. So we have two schools, we have a college, we have a support into employment hub, and we also run Project Iris Growing Hope, which is our suicide prevention program.
Yeah, and all amazing stuff. And we will make sure there are links to all of those pieces. But today we're here to talk about a specific thing that we're both involved with. And I was really lucky. I feel lucky, privileged, honoured last year to be involved with the Baton of Hope. You may be able to see it on my t-shirt. It's there. You go. There's a big advert for you. The Baton of Hope. So Marie was the wonderful arranger, coordinator, local legend, whatever you want to determine the title to be. That's really superlative. But you were the one who brought it to Basingstoke, our hometown. So do you want to just share a little bit about sort of that event and then we'll
Mm.
talk about what's coming?
Yeah, so my previous role within inclusion education, so I've worked for the charity for, well, pretty much 17 years now. I think it's just been my 17-year anniversary. Um, One of the roles that I had in that time was I was the head teacher of our college, and um, I became aware of the Baton of Hope National Charity, and their mission is to really, well, spread hope, but it's about challenging the stigma that still exists around suicide prevention and awareness. It's about being able to talk, and really sharing kind of lived experience as well. So I became aware of the charity, and they did a tour of the country in 2023, and it went to 12 different cities. And I was really lucky to attend one of the London days, one of the London stops, and it was just incredible. It was like nothing I've ever been to before, and it was so moving, so powerful. And I came away thinking I would just love to do something like that. And then I think a few months later, or a year later, they announced that they were going to do a tour in 2025, and they invited people to apply to project lead a stop, which I did, applied for, and we got it. And then began, probably, I would say, honestly, with all my heart, one of the most incredible years of my life. We had just under a year to plan it, and in that time, I just made so many connections and so many friends. We shared so much talking about suicide, and planned this incredible day to bring hope and the Baton of Hope to Basingstoke. And yeah, it was just an immense day. And obviously, Matt, you were heavily involved in it, which I was so grateful for. You shared your story, your experiences. You were one of our baton bearers, carrying the baton around different points in the town. And yeah, it was just the most incredible experience.
Yeah. And that's a wonderful way to sort of put it together. It was a very emotionally charged day as we anticipated it would be. There was a lot of stories. And I think from my perspective, what I truly value and love with that was the community part to it, the connecting with people and there were some very sad stories we heard which were really difficult. And I know there were people in attendance who had been personally touched by suicide and everything else and it was great to highlight to our community, wasn't it? And I know it went around the country to other locations and it's just, yeah, it's a force really, isn't it, that's changing the way this community or this conversation evolves.
It absolutely was a force. Yeah, there was 20 stops
Yeah.
around the country. And through that year as well, all the project leads, we had meetings, we had a WhatsApp chat, and there was such a community and there is such a strength in that. I mean, like you said, there were incredibly heartbreaking, powerful stories and experiences that people shared, but a big part of it as well was sharing hope.
Yeah.
And from these experiences, we're so motivated, compelled, I think, to really challenge these difficulties people have in sharing. Um, and the other thing as well was making sure people know where to go for support. Because I mean, I think we had something like 67 organisations involved in the Baton of Hope Basingstoke Day, and there are incredible groups, organisations, businesses, communities, all sharing this hope and support, and it's just making sure people know what's out there.
Yeah, definitely. And and I do want to say in this conversation, we both know because you're the person that reached out to me when I was on holiday to, sadly we lost Lara, which was, we didn't see it coming. And Lara, for anybody that's listening who doesn't know, was the host of the next location in Portsmouth. And then I sat down and recorded a podcast episode with her just a couple of weeks after the events had finished, launched that. And I always remember, Marie, I know we've spoken about this, but for anybody out there, this is why we do this, because
Yeah.
this is the real side of what we do. For you to message me when I'm on holiday in Thailand to
Mm.
say, I just want to let you know, and you told me that in such a sensitive way that obviously, it's hard because I'm nowhere near that. And I'd met Lara on a number of occasions and I'd recorded this episode and listened to her words, but
Mm.
it's still, it breaks your heart, doesn't it? Because, it reminds us of, even though we're doing all this awareness raising, supporting communities, it doesn't make it fail safe. It just means we need to evolve and talk and support. And I don't know if you wanted to say any words about that as well, Marie, but from my side, I'm grateful that I had you and you were checking in on me as well, right? And that's so, so powerful in itself.
There was such I mean, I'm really pleased that you've raised that and thank you because, yeah, a lot of this is, in memory of Lara. She was an incredible person, absolute force of nature. And it was an absolute honour to be alongside her as project leads, and actually, be next to each other in the days and the tour. Um, and you're right, there was such a lot of supporting each other. It was heartbreaking. But what it also showed is that strength of community afterwards. And yes, I sort of checked on you, you checked on me. There was a lot of support, people checking in on each other afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. And we hope that whatever or wherever Lara is, that she's at peace and she's resting and she's, yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? It's so difficult. And then we talk about legacy, and now we're moving that forward, aren't we? And through the tragedy of that event, and the passion and the dedication and commitment of so many people through the baton, and all the work that you did and others did as well. We want it to continue, though, don't we? And that's where we sort of turn, albeit we sort of, it seems strange to turn the dial from where we've just been to where we're going, but this is important because without continuing the conversation, the semicolon, the continuation, it doesn't make any change, does it, or difference? So you didn't give
Exactly.
up. You didn't give up, did you? You were relentless. I know we had these conversations, and you when you got that bit, Marie, and I love that about you, genuinely. When you got that bit, you go for it. So tell us what's happening now.
You're so right. I felt so strongly, and I talked about it a lot. In that kind of that year and afterwards. So for me, there was three parts to it. There was the lead up. Like I said, there's making the connections. People were sharing things. People were telling, opening up about their own experiences and saying, "I've never been able to talk about this before." Um, and that was built. There was the day, which again, as I said, I will never forget that day and just that whole, just huge spectrum of emotions. And then there was after. And I said all along, it's not about one day. It's about bringing hope, but it's about what we do with that afterwards. And I was really determined. Yeah, it wasn't going to be a great event. It was going to be the start. Um, and that is where we are now. And obviously, you are part of this as well. But we're absolutely delighted that we are Inclusion Education are leading a hub of hope to Hope Basingstoke, so a local community arm of the Baton of Hope. And it is all about continuing the legacy.
Amazing. It is. And you know, I know you've been talking about it publicly and there's been announcements about this that are out there in the press as well. Can you just explain what that means, just in terms of for anybody listening who hasn't read it, hasn't seen it, just very quickly sort of put it in a little box that we can understand. What does it
Yeah.
mean? The hope.
So it's continuing the mission. So it is community events and touch points. So in-person contact. So we have the Chatty Bench in Festival Place. We have Project Iris Growing Hope, which is open to anyone aged 11 to 25, referrals from anywhere. It's free, it's fully funded, and that's a sort of mental health support suicide intervention program. And then we have events. Um, and then what we are doing, it's about that signposting. So, like I said, it's about sort of bringing it all together. So, if somebody needs help and support, they know where to go, but also they know the options, because I think that's important as well. We tell people to reach out and to talk to someone, but you might have to find the right fit with that. So not every approach helps everyone. So I think it's about having this whole sort of collective of people and avenues of support. Um, and yeah, so and then that's it. And then continuing to embed the Baton of Hope workplace pledge with organisations, along with the BSI standard for suicide awareness and prevention at work.
Amazing. So there we go. So it's only a small task, right? Nothing major. Just alongside the day job and everything else that
Yeah.
family and everything. But it's so important though, isn't it? And I think that, you know, from outside of, you know, the community that we've already created and we've already worked with, you know, we want to extend that, don't we? And I think that's
Yeah.
the, you know, the intention. You mentioned a number of companies involved in the Baton of Hope tour last year, you know, in Basingstoke. But it needs to go beyond that, doesn't it? It needs to keep expanding. And you know, the plea here is, before we get into sort of some of the other bits, is for anybody listening, is to please share this with others. You know, share this you know, evolving thing with others and grow it, because we want to grow it organically with more people involved, more support, more people aware, because that's how it changes, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I had this conversation the other day with someone. I was saying suicide prevention and awareness typically and understandably tends to be people who know about it. They're in that, tragically,
Yeah,
they've had their experiences. Um, but for things to change, we need everyone
yeah,
to know about it. Don't, you know, we don't want people to not know about it and then something happens. To make huge change, the huge change that's needed is we need to know that people know where to go for help, they're comfortable having conversations, that people can ask somebody, are you thinking about suicide? And that is the only way we're going to change this.
yeah. I agree, and a lot of people out there sat in their own minds, their own thoughts, and it's. I read something that was posted earlier this week of Mental Health Awareness Week from Mark Rowland from the Mental Health Foundation, and it was and the statement I wrote it down because I've been using it all week in conversations with people saying, you know, so it says mental health campaigns, right? So whether that's a suicide prevention campaign or a mental health awareness campaign, but mental health campaigns help normalize struggles and narrow the gap between our inner and our outer worlds. So often we only see with suicide, sadly, when something happens, but we don't know what's going on inside. And you know, and I sort of take moments to reflect on, you know, the experience from last year when we were talking about this, you know, the wonderful Lara, and you think we didn't know until it happened that she was there again. And it's that sad sort of hard reality, isn't it? Of we need to be able to help communicate in a different way, support each other. You know, I've always felt so comfortable talking about suicide with you, Marie, and with others, you know, and but many people don't, because it's not a conversation that we feel comfortable around.
No, I think probably the majority
Yeah.
don't actually, and that stigma still exists around
Yeah.
it. And I think that counts for a lot of topics. So mental health, grief, bereavement, loss, suicide, we all have to get better at talking about these things.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what we're both aiming for, isn't it? Really, getting people talking,
Yeah.
maybe getting people moving as well. Sometimes as well. You never know.
Well, a walk and a talk, is is great. But yes, you are going to undertake a amazing challenge. Yeah, tell us about that.
So you know what? I was thinking, right, okay, what can I do to support the Baton and with the Hope Basingstoke piece, and I'm all into this. I love to set myself a challenge, and when I was sat down, I can't remember where it sort of stemmed from, apart from the fact that I genuinely love walking and I love moving around and running, and for anybody that listens to me on trainings and mental health trainings, I'm always the one going, yeah, so I aim for 12,000 steps a day. I average about 18,000, but and then I sort of think you sound a bit pretentious saying it like that because there's a lot of people out there who go, I wish I could do 1,000. I just don't have time or I don't have. And all I'm trying to do is create movement as part of the movement.
Mm,
If that makes sense. So, we're moving towards, we want greater conversations, we want better connections. But also, I was sort of earlier this year in January, I had my 10-year anniversary of when sort of my world changed from a career perspective when I lost my job. And what I sort of thought about at the time was, do you know what? I don't want to keep anniversarying. I don't want to keep saying, and this is the 11th year, and this is the 12th year, and this is the. I didn't want to keep going back every time to retell that story. I wanted it to be sort of a new chapter, and that new chapter was, when I sort of birthed this thing called Holhuman, which for me, I always love the fact that my surname or my initials are MH, same as mental health. It was all about creating something that meant there was a purpose. We have connections and community and collaboration at our heart, but we don't often live within those. And I work for myself, and I know many people, the network of Basingstoke and surrounding areas. There are other towns as well. I know we talk about Basingstoke because we're both representing, but so I just thought, you know what, I want to bring people together who feel like they don't have somebody to talk to. Links in perfectly to this thing about suicide prevention, mental health. And then I was like, so how can I do that? So I can set up little networking events. I know there's a few communities out there already doing those, running community or walking or whatever. And I sort of then had this vision of park run for walking, this reality of how can we create energy around helping people to come along, connect at a very low entry point, zero cost, because that's what people struggle with right now in the
yeah.
financial crisis. It costs money to do everything, but maybe we could create an environment where it shouldn't cost anything, apart from you put on a pair of shoes and you invest a little bit of you in yourself. And that was where the million steps come from. And then I thought, well, I could do a 31. I've toyed with this for years because a few years ago I did a 780,000 step month where I sort of set my intention. And then I toyed with this one for years. Could I do a month, 31 days consecutively with a million steps attached to it? Didn't know how to do it, didn't know what I was going to do. And then I went, what about if I did it not for a calendar month, but for a 31-day consecutive month based on something? And then I looked at the dates and it just stood out. 10th of September, World Suicide Prevention Day, to the 10th of October, which is 31 days, World Mental Health Day. And it was perfect. And I just went, you know what? I'm doing it. And I was talking to my partner Katie, and I was talking to others around me, and they go, just do it, just do it. And you know what? That gave, although I already had the motivation to do it, others around me were like, and I told you, and I remember sitting down with you and talking about, and it's just when you get that motivation to make the change, you will make it happen.
It's so exciting. But every time you say 1 million steps, I think, oh my God, can you just
You know what
tell
I
us
mean?
how many hours walking per
Well,
day on average?
well, if you break it down into 31 days, it works out around about 32,500 steps a day. Okay. So, and I did some research and it works out that's about 5 to 6 times the average for an adult, right? So per day, and it's, albeit I'm going to be really specific. I'm not going to be aiming at 32,500 steps every single day because some days are going to be a bit more tricky because of
Yes.
work and commitments and maybe I'm traveling. And so I'm going to be very mindful of that. However, if I don't do a 32,500 steps day, I've got to make it up somewhere
Mm.
a bigger day. I've done a couple of test days recently to do.
How was that?
Yeah, interesting. They're very long days. Very long. And I don't mean that I was walking for long. It just felt long because
Yeah,
and one of the byproducts I find with walking in being outside is you energizing your brain.
yeah,
So you're clearing all the junk, but you're also waking yourself up, and
yeah, yeah.
your vitality is changing, and your health changes, and so there's lots of byproducts of this. In I want to connect with people, I want to walk with people, I want to run with people if they want it. Although I'm not overly concerned about the running really. Although running will get me more steps quicker. That's the only thing. But yeah, I just, yeah, I think who knows what it'll be. I've got some companies that want to do sort of hosted walks, and that'll be one thing I'll be putting out there. I'm raising funds for the Baton of Hope as well, which is, a sort of a point of that. If people do want to donate something and they're willing to, they can donate towards the funding for Baton of Hope. So yes, there's so many things. I could talk about it forever.
It's so exciting. I'm so excited about it. And obviously, me, Inclusion Education, we will be with you, supporting you, backing you. We've had this conversation. I definitely don't do 10,000 steps a day, but I will definitely be joining you for some of it. I just think it's amazing. I
That's
think it's
the
incredible.
Commit yourself to what you can do, and that's what I want people to realize with this is, I'm doing a 1 million steps a month challenge, but it doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
And but you could, if you wanted to, create your own million steps challenge within a team or within the company, or it's like anything, isn't it? If you set an intention or a goal or a target, you can do it on your own. You can do it as a team. You can do it as a community. So it's all about just getting people connecting and moving. That's the most important part of all of this. It's back to the point of how do we improve conversations, of difficult conversations.
Mm.
We have to have conversations, don't we? So when I'm walking
Yeah.
with somebody, I'm going to happily be talking about whatever they want to talk about and whatever they want to share or whatever they want to say. I've got ears to listen. I've got a mouth to talk as well. But my ears can tune in and listen at times.
You are a very good listener. You are.
Contrary to some common belief.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's it, isn't it? Just getting out and going for a walk and having a chat with someone can help. I mean, I think it's simple as that, isn't it? And we, as a society, and with hybrid working, and like you said, you work for yourself. It's very easy to become isolated.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's the invitations that are going to be really important. So I'm going through my calendar at the moment. I can't announce it yet because it's a logistical thing. The invitations will be, I will set up events, I will set up walks, I will set up a time and a place to be. And if you are the person that's sitting at home in your little, whatever office or at your dining table working independently, and you think, do you know what? It would be really nice just to catch up with somebody or talk to somebody or walk with somebody or get moving. They're going to be local, so it's not going to be ongoing. Well, I say they're going to be local. Katie and I are planning on many events that we might go away from Basingstoke for. There's like the Tarka Trail. We want to go over to the Isle of Wight, and it's quite nice as well because I've got a very supportive partner who she genuinely is going to sign herself up to as much as she can do, and I'm not
oh,
putting any pressure on her. So she's like, long weekend walks. I think the Isle of Wight one's one that really excites me because it's 70 miles in total, which I'm not quite sure how many steps that is, but it's going to be somewhere over 100,000 steps in a weekend. So, I just really love it. I
it's an
genuinely,
incredible challenge. But so 31 days. So
yeah,
you finish on the 10th of October.
yeah.
And what are you going to be doing when you finish?
Probably burn my trainers and then
You probably need burning.
sit down for a bit. I don't know. I'm hopeful that we'll have an event. I want
Yeah.
to do something, and I know we had an event last year when the Baton of Hope was in Basingstoke. So I got a guy that I went to school with who, I'm going to have a little word in his ear. Hopefully, we can use his bar. And yeah, it was a great venue for last year. It's a great place, the Tea Bar. Oh, sorry, I
Mm.
said the name because I haven't asked him yet. Little plug, Hayden, if you're listening. So so yeah, I really want to do something, but I want to bring that event to like a closure with sort of a walk at the end, so walking to that place to do something with that. We went to the orchard, we went all around, didn't we, last
Mm.
year? This, no doubt there'll be some of that sort of, repeating that because we've also got the anniversary of the Baton Invasion Day right on the 25th of September.
Yes.
So, whatever we can do to link it all together, I'm here. I'm the glue. I want to bring it in, and that's what I'm here for. So whatever you need, Marie, ask the question. Doesn't mean I'm going to say yes, but we'll.
But I'll ask anyway. Yeah, no, we've sort of started to think about it, haven't we? But definitely on our anniversary event of the 25th of September, a Hope anniversary event. it would be absolutely wonderful to meet you or join up and to perhaps walk again the Baton Bearer route, um, in memory of the day. But yeah, we'll
I commit to that 100% now, right? We'll
amazing.
the walk on the day, whatever happens, irrespective of what you're planning with the other stuff as well. I will definitely walk the walk that day. So anybody out there who was part of the Baton of Hope Basingstoke 2025 who wants to get
Yeah,
involved again, we're going to walk that walk again. We might not have the baton, which is okay, but we can walk the walk and we can relive that day.
we've probably still got the big flags actually.
Big flags. Okay, we'll bring out
Yeah,
the big flags, whatever we've got. Right? All the merch is
still got
coming.
the banners.
I still got my t-shirt. Brilliant. I might just change the number to 26 on the back. But yeah, whatever it is. But please, I think the key to this conversation really today was more about, we are doing things and there is action and action is
Yes.
the theme of Mental Health Awareness Week, isn't it, as well? So,
Yeah.
which is great. It's all tediously linking everything together, obviously. But any
In a
final
very skilled way.
any final thoughts?
I think you've put it really well. We are here. We are doing this. We are all exceptionally motivated and passionate about this and really believe in it. Matt, I think what you're doing is amazing. It's an incredible challenge, and I'm really looking forward to it. And also thank you for all your support for Hope Hub and being part of that.
No, and this, yeah, well, you know what? We do it because we genuinely want to, and we care about the topic, and we
Yeah.
really want to, bring down the number of people who feel there isn't hope and bring hope back, really, don't we? So it's amazing, Marie. I absolutely love and adore everything you do, and you and the team at Inclusion, and all the wonderful people that you've brought into my life as well. So. Um, Please look after you. And I'm so excited. And well, we will obviously be talking very, very soon anyway. But for anybody that is listening, if you want to get involved in any of the activities that we're talking about, if you want to know more about inclusion, you want to know more about Project Iris or the Baton of Hope, Hope Basingstoke, please do, make sure you familiarize yourself with what's going on because we want to move the community together. We want everybody coming together. And, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? So thank you, Marie. Lovely to see you as always.
Thank you, Matt.
And I'll see you very soon.
See you soon. Bye.